coming up, we're going to be talking about the Disney Plus password crackdown, also talking about how Disney is going to be making some improvements to the service, and also a brand new Star Wars series coming soon to the platform. But before we go any further, make sure you do hit that subscribe button to keep up with the latest Disney Plus news. Hi, it's Roger here from What's On at DisneyPlus.com. It's time for a quick Disney Plus news roundup. So let's start off with talking about Bob Iger, who is the CEO of Disney, and he took part in a special interview with CNBC shortly after the big annual shareholders meeting. Talked about a number of different things, including Elon Musk and some pelts. But, well, that's all over with. Let's get in with the stuff that interests us with regards to Disney Plus. So, the big thing is the password crackdown is going to be starting in June in some countries before it then starts going into a full rollout in September. Now, we don't really know how this is going to work, what's going to be happening. We already know that we have been kind of agreed to a new terms of service that came up earlier this year. That's now in effect, which kind of defines a subscription for a household. And that's going to be the key thing that's going to be something that I think we need to be aware of. So many questions, so many people have been asking about this. It really is a hot topic whenever this comes up, because there's a lot of people that share accounts with other people, of friends and family, and want to know how this is going to impact them and how this is going to affect them. Is it going to cost them any more money? Is it not? And as I said, no official details have been announced how it's going to work. And as I said, it's going to be testing out in some countries first, so they can work out what happens and stuff. We've already seen Netflix do something similar, and they were able to add about 20 million subscribers because of their plan. So it's unsurprisingly that Disney are following suit. And it's also going to be impacting, I think, on ESPN Plus and Hulu, etc. Max is also going to be doing something very similar as well this summer. They're all starting to crack down on the idea of people sharing their accounts, because in reality, this is lost revenue from them, because they will be looking at it and going, if this person lives in another household, then they should be paying for their own way. And that's kind of the simple way of looking at it. There's no easy way of doing it. Now, I know there's a lot of people feel like there's exceptions and their situation's different, and I'll just give some of my thoughts of how this is probably going to go. If you are sharing your account with a child or a family member that lives in your household, you haven't got to worry. If you're going on holiday and you're using Disney Plus away, or if you're going to if you're going to a friend's house and you're accessing Disney Plus for a few days, or your kid goes to your grandparents or something like that and takes their tablet, that's not what they're trying to clamp down on, because you are the subscriber. You are using often your own device, but you are using the app, the thing that you have paid for, and therefore that isn't really something that they're looking to crack down on. You might get prompted for a password or a passcode or something along those lines just to make sure it's you, but I wouldn't worry about it. That is your account, and if you're paying for it, that makes sense. That is not really an issue. There's been some people that have brought up, about second homes and split families, and this is going to be where it gets a little bit tricky. We don't know how it's all going to work. This gets brought up a lot of students. So if you've got an adult child that's gone off to university, how does that impact it? Are they going to have to get their own subscription? They already do that with Hulu. People would then kind of say, well, they're not at the address, but they are at the address. They're adults living in another address. It's going to be tricky, and hopefully we get confirmation of how all this is going to work. I would say to you now is, if you are sharing your account with somebody else, or you are sharing somebody else's account, be aware that things are going to start changing, and start maybe preparing for that. If you have, if your brother or your dad or someone else is using your account in another household, in another building somewhere else, you might want to start saying that, look, this might not last forever. Over the summer, things might change. Give them a little bit of a heads up that things could be changing. If you are using somebody else's accounts, just be aware that things might happen, and that's it. I know some people have said, I want to have access to it. I don't agree with it. They're being greedy, all the rest of it. Ultimately, a business is there to make money. That is all it's there for. It doesn't care about your feelings, ultimately. And the simple fact that we have all been sharing our accounts for years, and it's been kind of turned a blind eye to, that is changing. They're all changing their mind. I'm not going to lie. I have shared my passwords and my accounts with family members. I've done it myself, so I'm completely in the same boat as most of us have done it, because essentially there was no reason not to do it. I got Paramount Plus. I let my dad have access to it to watch Star Trek, because it yeah, it was easy done. And same with Disney Plus and Netflix, etc. It's easily done, and a lot of us do it. And unfortunately, the streaming services are going to start clamping down on it in the same way that you can't share your cable or your telephone or your internet with someone in a different household. And I think we've all kind of got this weird thing of what is acceptable and what really is realistically what's going to happen. With the linear television cable business collapsing, they are now looking at, they've got to fund that money. Back when linear was funding all television and they were making all their profits and streaming was a side income, they weren't so bothered. But now it's flipped the other way. They are going to be looking to do it. And it's going to happen. There's no point in sugarcoating it, and it's going to be uncomfortable for a lot of us getting used to it. I would say if you are using somebody else's account or somebody else is using it, check to see if they've got free access to Disney Plus through like their telephone provider or their banking, because a lot of people do have access and maybe they're just not bothered setting it up and all the rest of it. Maybe if you've got Spectrum, they'll have access to it. These kind of things of just check to see if there's an alternative. Obviously, there is the ad version, which is much cheaper than an annual subscription, so that's something else to be looking into. But I know it's unpopular. I know a lot of people do not like it, and it's no doubt it is going to cause upset. But following Netflix lead, they added so many millions of subscribers that is what they're going to be looking for, and ultimately they're trying to essentially nip this in the bud now. I think they've left it too late. I think this should have been done when Disney Plus first launched. I think if they'd started it then properly, they did have the concurrent stream limit of originally it was set to 4 screens at once. You could watch it at any given time. They never really enforced that, and so people were taking advantage of it. And now with the new tiers that we've got internationally, you can only stream on 2 platforms at once. So that obviously does limit how many people can use it at once. I know some people say, it's my account, I'm paying for it, I should be able to share it with who you want. And, there's falls and either way. No matter which way you look at it, they are going to be changing these rules. And so, so if you are sharing your account with somebody else, just be aware that things might start changing. It's all of them are going to be doing it. This is something that's going to be happening across the board, across all the different platforms. This is within a few years. You're just probably not going to be able to do this very easily on anything. They're all clamping down on it. They all want that revenue. They all want their monthly subscriptions. And unfortunately, it's going to be a bit of a bumpy period while we get out of it. But I would say again, if you are doing it right now and you're sharing it and all the rest of it, don't worry now. Just keep going, just that kind of thing of it is going to be changing, and just be aware that by September time when it fully rolls out, because I doubt they'll start in the US first. I suspect they'll start in some other countries and start doing testing there, work out how to do it. Like if they turn it on a little bit too forcefully, what happens if they turn it down a little bit? They'll have different settings and stuff just to see how people react. More people subscribe, less people subscribe. There's going to be that thing of. Yeah, but again, if you're not sharing your account, you haven't got nothing to worry about. That's not the issue. But just be aware, things are going to be changing this summer. Just be aware of it, and I would say just start preparing yourself for the idea that things are going to change if you're sharing your accounts. Hopefully we get some information. Disney has said that they're going to be doing some kind of add-on thing like Netflix did, where you could add an extra family member or an extra household on. And I think, maybe that's something they need to do. Especially, I think that definitely fits more into like students at university and stuff. It's a very fine line because ultimately they are adults living in another address, often in a completely different state. And you can see it from, they've got to pay their other bills and stuff in the same way that they have moved out. But you can counter argument and say, well, they're still a dependent. They're still often got the same address at home. It's a very messy situation for sure, and it's not going to be easy, and there's going to be a lot of people upset about it. But in the long run, this is something that is just going to have to happen. They can't get away. They can't keep just turning a blind eye to essentially what is a new version of piracy kind of thing of people using it. And I know some people will go back to torrenting and piracy and all the rest of it, but the vast majority of people aren't going to be doing that. And ultimately, they want to get more people signed up for the ad tier. But it's going to be tricky how this comes in. But I'd love to know your thoughts on all this, because I know when I posted up in our Facebook group, there was a lot of reaction. And a lot of people as well, in some way, like, I'm in this situation. What about me? We don't know how it's all going to plan out yet. But just as I said, I think the main key thing is if you're sharing it with somebody that, a family member or a friend that lives in a completely different house to you, just be aware that things could end up changing. But let us know what you think of all this in the comments below. During that same interview, there was a couple of other interesting things that got brought up. First off, Disney, Bob Iger was asked about the idea of doing a bundle with other streaming services, and he kind of jumped around and sort of said, it's a possibility, you know, and I think it makes sense. You know, you can quite easily see, you know, Netflix and Amazon and Disney kind of coming together and go like, oh, we'll offer all free and it's like this much and it's slightly cheaper. We're seeing things like this happening already in different countries. Canada recently had, TELUS has a deal called Stream Plus, which you can get here in the UK. You can do different bits and pieces. We're seeing bundles being put together as a way of trying to keep people locked in. On one hand, it's good because you might be able to save some money. On the other hand, it can be, you know, counterproductive to the way that we think of as streaming as a way of getting away from cable TV, of these big bundles, and you're paying for channels that maybe you're not accessing. And I don't think necessarily they're all going to go down this line of having one big streaming bundle and everyone just pays the amount. And I don't think the companies will ever go back to fully that, because I think they like having their own control. But yeah, a bundle, would you be interested in that? I'd love to know your thoughts on this. Also, during that same interview, Bob did talk about some other things, you know, talking about sort of streaming as a whole. You know, they're looking at, you know, they've been making lots of cuts to costs, which is going to make it profitable by the end of the year, and they're looking forward. He did talk about how, you know, they're kind of the second streaming service behind Netflix, which isn't something that really they'd like to be. I think they want to be the top, and they got to do more. He talked about how they need to do more technical advancements and kind of more sort of algorithms and recommendations and stuff. They're looking at Netflix and going, we need to do what they're doing, but better, and they're not doing it now. He did say they're going to talk a little bit more about Hulu on Disney Plus at the next quarterly, and they needed to get more engagement and more people watching on Disney Plus, and Hulu is that way in. And yeah, I think as a whole, you know, they did say that, you know, they know what they need to do, they've now just got to do it. I think the excuse, you know, that Disney Plus is only 4 years old and they were still new to it, it's like, the simple truth is they had their hands like tied behind their back with Hulu, and now they can fully unlock it. I still fully believe that they're going to merge them at some point in the future to have one single streaming service with all their entertainment in one package, to kind of really be, in order to go after, you can see it with the advertising. In the last week since Hulu on Disney Plus has launched, we're really seeing a big difference in how Disney are presenting it. Yeah, so, but unfortunately we're in that weird like middle bit where they've got to sort it out. But they said they know what they need to do, now they've just got to do it. But hopefully with Disney Plus they can start improving some of the technology, some of the stuff that they're doing in it. Again, it's a lot of this stuff really is like, in ultimately, it's like when I look at like Hulu on Disney Plus, it's like there's not a huge amount here that's a massive improvement over what we've had on Star for years. But now maybe they can start making changes and focusing on one platform. I think that's the key thing, is essentially getting rid of like Hulu and these other apps that they're running and just focusing on one will allow their technology to just, again, just focus. It's like marketing. You put out a press release, an advert, a poster, etc., and you put out one logo on it. You're not having to run 2 adverts constantly like they do in the US. But let us know what you think of all this. Do you agree? Do you not? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this in the comments below. Disney also released a brand new trailer for the upcoming Star Wars short series, Tales of the Empire, which is kind of like a follow-on to Tales of the Jedi, which came out last year. So this one is 6 short episodes, 2 core stories, really about kind of people within the Empire. I thought the trailer looked great, seeing Darth Vader and Thrawn in there, and just this continuation of that era between the sort of the trilogies. Again, just seeing more of Thrawn is definitely pretty cool, and just when Vader comes in, you can hear his, you know, that. Just great. I'm looking forward to watching it. It's going to drop onto Disney Plus around the world on May the 4th, so nice to get that one in there. Big new release. I think we were all looking to the idea of what they were going to do on May the 4th. That is going to be the big new release. And obviously as well, Phantom Menace is going to be out in cinemas at the same time. But I thought Tales of the Empire looks really interesting. I'm looking forward to watching it, but let us know what you think of that in the comments below. In our question of the day, Nick asked, do you think that when ESPN is fully introduced to Disney Plus, they will add a 7th ESPN hub? So I definitely think that next year you're going to see a Hulu hub on Disney Plus, because it's going to be a paid add-on, same way that, you know, you've got Hulu on Disney Plus now, and they're going to want more money from it. Unfortunately, sports cost a lot of money, and if they include sports in just a generic Disney Plus bundle, it is going to cost a lot of money for each. And I don't think we all want that. You know, if you don't want to have access to sports, being forced to pay for it is what has been one of the big problems with cable. Now, in Latin America later this year, and when Star Plus kind of merges in with Disney Plus, there is going to be a new ESPN hub. So that'll be interesting to see how this works. Whether or not that is kind of like going to be like the test to see how it comes together. Here in the UK and in Europe and across Middle East and Africa, we had our ESPN player closed down last year. They've not announced a replacement. We've not seen what they're going to be doing with that, which is kind of weird, but it wouldn't surprise me if we follow suit to what's happening in Latin America and in some other regions, because it makes sense for them to utilize that content. You know, if they're making things like documentaries, and it just makes sense to use it. Unfortunately, I don't know if there's a way really that they can justify an add-on for maybe internationally, because there's going to be less sports and how much we're willing to pay for it. A lot of it, like here, is like US sports, and they haven't got. That's probably not going to work as well in trying to get people to sign up to it. But I mean, I don't mind it being an add-on, but if they're going to do it, maybe just do it all over the place at the same, you know, do it the same way. But I'm convinced that the Latin America thing is going to be a little bit of a test bed, see how it works, because yeah, but it might work very differently in the US, because obviously with the NFL games and NBA, there's a much bigger audience, and also sport varies around the world and stuff. But I do think we're going to start seeing that ESPN hub becoming a much bigger thing over the next 18 months. They just had to sort out the Hulu side right now, but yeah, let us know. Would you like to see more ESPN content on Disney Plus, or just within it? I love to hear your thoughts on this in the comments below. Remember to go check us out over at what's on at disneyplus.com this coming weekend. I'll be doing a live Q&A on Sunday. And on that note, guys, thank you very much. See you guys soon. Laters.